final lesson in unit number 1 is 0.6, averaging averages. Suppose a basketball player has made 60% of their foul shots during the season. Then in the next game, they make 4 out of 10 foul shots, which is 40%. What is their new percent for the entire season? And we have some choices here. We can say that it's between 50 and 60, exactly 50%, between 40 and 50, or none of the above. And as it turns out, the correct answer could be either A, B, or C, depending on how many foul shots they've attempted so far in the season. When we're working with averages, we have to be careful not to just average averages together. For example, in many cases, it would not be correct to take 40% and 60% and average those together and get 50. It really depends on how many shots were made in each of those scenarios. So let's look at a couple of cases. Case A is where the number of attempts in the current game is less than the total number of attempts before the season. As an example, suppose that before the game mentioned in the example, the player had made 24 of 40 shots they attempted. 24 of 40 is, in fact, 60%. Now, during the current game, we are told that the player attempted 10 and made 4, which is 40%. Now, to calculate what their new overall average is for the season, we need to know how many total attempts they have and how many total they have made. So if we take the number of attempts, 40 and 10, and we combine those, and we take the number of shots that they made, which is 24 and 4, and that will allow us to fill in that third and final column. So they have a total number of 50 attempts, 40 plus 10, and 28 that they made, and 28 out of 50 puts them at 56%. Now let's look at case B. Case B is the situation where the number of attempts in this game is equal to the number of attempts before the game. So notice in both cases, they have 10 attempts. So if they had 10 attempts before, 6 out of 10 would put them at 60%. They made 4 out of 10 in this game. Now their total number of attempts is 20, 10 plus 10. The total number that they made is 10, and 10 out of 20 is 50%. So in this case, we could have averaged together 40 and 60 to get 50 because that's halfway in between, and that only works because of the number of attempts in each case was the same. Now in case C, we have the situation where the number of attempts in this game is more than the number that they attempted before. So let's suppose, as an example, they had attempted 5 shots prior to this game and made only 3 of them, which would put them at 60%. This game, we have 10 out of 4. Now the total number of attempts would be 15. The total number that they made was 7, and 7 out of 15 is 46.7%. So you can see we get vastly different results in each of these situations. Let's try another example. In example number 1, we're going to look at the 2013 MLB season, where after 133 games, Miguel Cabrera's batting average was .350, and that was based on him hitting 175 out of 500 at-bats. In his next game, he had 1 hit in 4 at-bats, which means his average is .250 for that game. And we want to calculate his new season batting average. Again, we can't just take the averages and average them together, right? So we have .250 and .350. We can't just add those up and divide by 2. What we need to do there is figure out how many total hits he had. Well, he had 175 before and then 1 in the new game, which puts him at 176 total. We also need the total number of at-bats. So we had 500 prior to this game and then 4, which puts him at 504 total at-bats. To do his new batting average, remember it's hits divided by at-bats. So 176 out of 504 puts his batting average at .349. So you can see that with this one game, his batting average just dropped by a tiny little bit because he only had 4 at-bats compared to the 500 at-bats he had in the season prior to this. In example number 2, we're going to look at success rate for the Golden State Warriors during the 2015 and 16 NBA season. Notice it says that they set a record by winning their first 24 games. And during that streak, Steph Curry made 123 out of 269 three-point shot attempts for a 45.7 success rate. In the next game, he only made 2 out of 9, which is only 22.2% success rate. We want to know what was his overall success rate at the end of this. Notice in this example, by the way, like the last one, there is some extra information here. We don't really need to use the fact that they played 24 games. That's totally not needed. Just like in the last one, there was some extra information given about Miguel Cabrera that we didn't need. All right, so here, again, like the last one, we can figure out the total number of shots that Steph Curry made. He had 123 during that streak, plus the 2 more, which puts him at 125. His total number of attempts was 269, plus the 9 in the new game, which puts him at 278. Now, for his 3-point shot success rate, we would take the successes divided by the attempts. So 125 out of 278, and that puts him at 45.0%. So he had one really bad game, but that only dropped his overall average for the season from 45.7 to 45.0. For tonight, please do the assignment, homework 0.6 in your assignment packet.